Hi and welcome to this video log with me, Wayne, from swimmingcyclingrunning.com. Well, over the past 2 weeks we've spoken about how at championships people aren't able to get their turns as they would like to practice them. They're not putting effectively practice into performance and how that might cause a problem. And we've also talked about aggressive starts. So I'm going to talk today about aggressive turns and how you should turn in a race and the basic principles of getting that right. Because again, that's rather important for when you're racing. Okay, so let's go to the computer, then we'll come back and we'll have a chat. We're looking at backstroke turns, but effectively the principle's the same for front crawl turns. So let's just have a look at this. So we can see this swimmer has come off effectively level with the surface and is driving towards the surface in a straight line. Let's just take a look at that again from the point that she turns over in slightly slower motion. So the turn happens in straight, planting the feet on the wall virtually straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and a strong backstroke kick to the surface. Slowing that down even more, we can see that there's a turnover. Now she's in the front crawl position, and as she tumbles, she tucks her knees in, which speeds up the tumble, and that doesn't stop till she's very close to planting her feet on the wall. When she plants her feet on the wall, the toes aren't extended, they're flexed, they're dorsiflexed, so she can get real drive off of the glutes, the hamstrings, and the quads, plus she can drive those toes off. So if I get rid of that, you can see as she extends, those toes extend too. So you don't want to land with extended feet. And you can see that explosion of power that she gets. Now the only thing we have here is I would much prefer her body to be straight as she does those fly kicks as opposed to undulating. But, as I say, she's doing 8 fly kicks to the surface. And if we drew a line up to the surface, she'd very much be following that line all the way. And you want to go in a straight line to the surface. You do not want to go in a curve, because curves are slow and straight lines tend to be much faster. Here we have another swimmer where we're going to see a very common error when turns are involved. Let's set that running. This is normal speed. Push off the wall looks okay, but then suddenly, the curve happens. Let's go back and have a look at that. So the push off on the wall is slightly too flexed there. You're not using those legs as well as we could. We're then slightly too deep in the water. I think there to there. We really just want to be about 2 body widths under the surface, and that's too far. And because he's too far from the surface, suddenly he's out of breath and struggling to get to the surface, and he's going up effectively at that angle. Well, at that angle you've got massive amount of drag, and that has just slowed him down tremendously. The second swimmer in this clip does virtually the same thing, just comes up at too sharp an angle, so the drag off the body is going to be quite high, and the swimmer's slowing down all the time till they get to the surface and level out. Here's a good backstroke swimmer doing a good turn. You'll see the drive to the surface at the end of the pull-out. There we go, really nice streamlined position. Driving to the surface in a straight line and into the stroke. Here's another good swimmer with a reasonable turn, but they do push off slightly too deep in my opinion, which leads to the necessity to get to the surface quickly and therefore in a curved position. You see, that's really nicely streamlined. Beautiful kicks, but we're too deep, so we come up in a curve and that slows the swimmer. Okay, so let's just take another look at one swimmer's underwater section who's a pretty accomplished backstroker. Here we go, you can see that really good push off, the drive, and then a straight line to the surface with a really strong backstroke kick. Now, what's noticeable about this particular swimmer is the amount of time they take before they start kicking. So let's look at the push off. 1, 2, and then the kick starts, and that's important for everybody. So there we were looking at backstroke turns, but the principle remains the same no matter what turn you're doing. What you effectively want to do is plant your feet on the wall so that your feet are effectively dorsiflexed like that, so you can really use them to push off. And you want to use all those huge muscle groups to actually drive off the wall approximately 2 body widths below the surface of the water. And then you want to drive to the surface in a straight line. Remember, curves are incredibly slow things. They slow you down, they create additional resistance, and it's not the shortest path effectively to where you want to go, which is the surface. The next thing to consider is the speed you get to the surface at. Now you want to be at the surface at your maximum swimming speed. Now that might sound obvious, but it's not necessarily what people do. People either come up too early when they're actually underwater and swimming faster than they could on the surface, or they come up too late and they've slowed right down. Now in the first case, you're actually going to slow down by swimming. If you come up too early and you're going faster underwater than you can on the surface, then actually by being at the surface, you're slowing down. And the only reason ever to do that is if you really have run out of breath. In the second case, when you've actually slowed right down and you're going slower than you could swim at the surface, it's obvious that if you're at the surface, you'd be swimming faster. But not only that, when you get to the surface, if you're slower than your fastest swimming speed, you then have to pick up that speed with these little muscles at the top of your body, whereas to push off the wall, you've used these huge muscles around your glutes, your hamstrings, and your quads. You've also used the flex of your feet. You can't do that when you're generally swimming. So it makes sense to get to the surface at your fastest swimming speed. And that's effectively what you should be practicing in training. If you practice it in training successfully, you're liable to do it in a race, and that's the best possible outcome you can hope for. Actually getting to the surface where you don't have to waste any effort in getting up to speed, and you're actually at that speed and not faster, so you're slowing yourself down. Okay, there we go. That's this week. Next week it'll be something different. Have a lovely week. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy your training.